This is an Eye on Annapolis bonus podcast.
All right, well, joining us on the phone today is Chris Knight, who will be here in Annapolis on April 2nd at Ram's Head On Stage. Tickets are still available at ramsheadonstage.com. And I guess first things first, this is not the Chris Knight that was Peter Brady, which is thankful. This is Chris Knight, who is a wonderful musician, a critically acclaimed songwriter and performer with 26 years under your belt. More than a songwriter, I mean, you're more of a storyteller. Wouldn't you say that's fair?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, I just pretty much story set the music, but I got a few that aren't really as story-oriented. You know, they're just like Cry Lonely. You know, I wouldn't call that a story.
Well, I'll tell you, you are going to be here on April 2nd, which is a Wednesday evening for one show only at 7:30 p.m. at Ram's Head On Stage. I did look, and tickets are still available. And for the parents that are around, they have changed their policy, and they are allowing all ages in now with the parent. So if you want to see some outstanding music, here's a great opportunity. But what can we expect from Chris Knight when you come into Annapolis in a couple of weeks?
Well, I think I'm going to have my band with me, so we'll be, doing a mix of more, if you call them up-tempo, it's about as up-tempo as I can get. Like the stuff from each album, there'll be some broke down acoustic stuff with just me and my guitar player, and probably usually play an hour and a half, and it's looking forward to playing over there. Last time I played in Maryland, it was really good. I can't even remember the name of the town, but it was a really good crowd. That was last year sometime.
Well, I will say that a lot of Maryland has sort of changed a little bit. We were, I would say, not a whole lot of country, but it's really changed over the last 5 or 6 years. I mean, we've got some national stars that have come out of here that are, getting, national gigs and everything else. But your 9th album, which was back in 2019, which was Almost Daylight, I mean, you did 8 albums in 14 years, but then you took a little bit of a break in putting out albums. What has changed over all the time from your albums? I mean, like I said, you've been doing them for, quite some time. I mean, what's changed for you that you've seen as a musician?
Well, I mean, I'm enjoying getting out and playing the songs, and we'll change up the set list, and we'll learn some older songs that probably nobody has really heard me do on stage ever or for a long time. And then I really enjoy being around my band, and it took me a long time, but I think I'm liking it better now than I ever did. But as far as writing, I mean, sometimes it's like, I mean, I've got songs that's never heard the light of day, and they just need a little tweaking, and write another verse or two, or change a few lines here and there, to get them where I want to sing them. As far as writing, I mean, it's like I'm not going to write some inane stuff, that just to write a song anymore. I mean, and it's also sometimes that thing that makes you just obsess over writing songs and keeping that anxiety going all the time. And then you're like a staff writer, and you got to turn in so many songs.
Sure.
Now that's over.
Sure.
I mean, that's, and it's like, how am I going to write? I got to write, if I'm writing, I've written a few songs, and, I write songs and forget them before I ever get them put down, and, if they, I mean, Fred Eaglesmith said, if it's a good song, you don't even have to write it down. And
that's true.
That's kind of how it is.
Your albums and your music all seems to be based pretty much on real life, again, as a storyteller. And you're from Slaughters, Kentucky, which is a population, last time I looked, of 184. So that's a really small town, but
Well, it must have been 16 people must have left because I always heard it was 200.
but do you ever run out of material? I mean, a lot of your songs are real. I mean, they're based on your experiences, but I mean, do you ever run out of material living in such a small town?
No. Well, I mean, my songs are based on a lot of different things, like, the way I grew up, where I grew up, the people I knew, something I read about, something I might write a song, something that I saw in a movie or a line or something that might make me think of something else, and they're just, all that stuff is out there if you got the thing to write a song. And I always try to look underneath the surface, like drive by an old house or something and then just come up with the whole story.
Well, you perform all over in really small rooms. I mean, and there's some artists that I've spoken with that love the stadiums and they love, the bigger venues. Do you really like the smaller ones? I mean, does that really give you an intimate look into the audience and them into you?
Yeah. Yeah, I like well, I mean, ain't nothing wrong with playing in front of a big crowd, but most of the time when I'm playing in front of the big crowd, they're waiting to hear the headliner or whatever, so, or they got their backs turned to me or they're looking at their cell phones, things like that. So that's not, you can make some good money doing that, but it ain't nothing like playing in a 200, 300 seat club that's fairly well packed with a bunch of happy people.
That's the thing. Music really is sort of a great equalizer. It brings everybody together. And, for an hour and a half listening to Chris Knight, you're not black, you're not white, you're not Republican or Democrat. You're not, you're all together experiencing the stories of a man from Slaughters, Kentucky. And that's what is absolutely beautiful about music. And I know that you got into music very late, and sometimes I'll ask people what they would do if music never worked out for you. But I think I know your answer because you spent a decade working as a strip mine reclamation inspector before getting into music. Yeah,
I worked for like 6 years for a mining consultant. Before that, I mean, I worked at a reclamation outfit, coal mine reclamation, and then went to work for the mining consultant. I did a lot of, technical writing, putting together mine permits and sampling water for the mines and stuff like that.
How did you make that jump from mines to guitars?
Well, I started playing guitar when I was 15, and it took me I was 26 before I ever wrote a song that I would play for anybody, and I spent, I never went to Nashville till I was 31, early 90s. I think I went down there and auditioned for the Bluebird and knocked on a few doors. I didn't get a hell of a lot done, but I've been sending some songs to Nashville since the late 80s, and I got encouragement, just through the mail, handwritten notes. And then that was while I was working, around the coal mines and stuff. And then when I went in the early 90s, I got on the writer's night and at Bluebird, and Frank Liddell was there. And he's one that ended up getting me signed to Blue Water Music as my first publisher, and then signed to Decca, because by the time I got signed to Blue Water, it took a year and a half. But then he went on to Decca, so, that's always been, the major I guess, catalyst or whatever.
Sure, sure.
It kept me going.
Yeah, well, you got to have something there. But after your career in music, though, knowing what you know now, because, I mean, music has changed, the industry has changed just so much since your very first album. Would you ever do it again?
I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't have any regrets, but it's not the same.
Yeah. Well, I know that you also said, I was reading an interview that you did, you said, and I think I'll quote this right, but it says, there seem to be way more talented, or we're talking about women in modern country music, and you said they seem to be way more talented than the dudes.
Well, that's it. They were singing more interesting songs. I mean, to me, at that time, anyway, I mean, I hear a good song every now and then. And I'm like, I mean, I like a few of the guys they're out there now.
Who's on your playlist?
Hear a good song, huh?
Who's on your playlist? Who are you listening to that you're liking right now?
Well, I mean, if I hear a Morgan Wallen song, that kind of makes me, like I see, I like that, and then there's been a few artists over the years like Morgan Wallen. I didn't hear, I wasn't listening to anything for a long time, and then my son was playing Morgan Wallen. Parker McCollum. We'd go fishing, and he'd have all that stuff in his truck. We'd be listening to that, and I'd hear some good songs. Zach Bryan, there was that kind of stuff out there, and writers. I mean, I'm going to leave people out, I'm sure, but, just hearing a certain song, Cover Me Up, it's like, that's one of my favorite songs, and I never heard it really till last year, and I'd heard about it and everything, but heard it on low volume, but then all of a sudden I turned it up and listened to it, and just that kind of stuff. And then if I listen to music, I'm going to listen to.
Now, is your son pursuing a music career?
No, he can play the guitar, and I hear him playing. I tried to teach all my kids to play. I never pushed them. They'd ask me if I'd teach them, and I'd tell them, learn these 3 chords and come see me next week. And it was always, it hurts my fingers and stuff like that. So.
It's funny. I don't have a musical note in my body to sing or to play or anything like that. And I always regret that my mother never made me play piano or guitar or cello or whatever the heck it is. I really wish that I'd had some, I wasn't looking to be a musician or anything like that, but just to have that talent and the ability to do it. And unfortunately, here I am. Mom never made me do it. So, well, I'll tell you, on the second, you're going to be sharing a stage with Justin Baker. If you could share the stage with any other artist, dead or alive, who would you like to get up on a stage and play with?
I don't catalog that stuff, but I've did some shows with John Prine, and he sang on a couple of my records. And, I was always a big John Prine fan, and I don't know. I mean, I've been on stage, like I remember back in I can't remember when it was, but Kevin Welch.
Okay.
In country music TV used to actually, it was pretty good. Back in the 90s. Dwight Yoakam, Patty Loveless, Steve Earle, Marty Stewart started out a lot more raw than what he ended up being, and it was good. It was really good. It was like just kind of woke me up to, I mean, I love Tom T. Hall, but this wasn't exactly Tom T. Hall. You know, my dad, he was a big Tom T. Hall fan, and I always heard Tom T. Hall songs. And I don't know whether any of that influenced me or not, but then now, you know, I always liked Eddie Rabbitt. Whenever it was in the early 80s, I guess. Eddie Rabbitt. Oh, you know, Earl Thomas. Let's see. I don't know, there was a few other artists back there. And then Steve Earle came out, and at the same time, Dwight Yoakam was out, and that was a big thing right there. It's like, that's, maybe I can do something like that, you know.
I'll tell you, that'd be one awesome set, you know, with all of those. But I'll tell you, Chris, as we start to wrap up, and I didn't count them, but I mean, you have a ton of songs under your belt here. Is there one that you absolutely love to perform live? Maybe, you know, it's a crowd favorite. Maybe it holds some sort of special meaning to you. I mean, is there any one song of yours that's just really gets you going every time you play it?
Well, that changes sometimes, but, you know, I mean, I really like lyrics in the story on Hard Candy and Little Victories. And, you know, as far as playing, I think Becky's Bible might be the most melodic song that I have. I never paid a whole lot of attention on the melodies, but, you know.
Well, I'll tell you, we are in for a very special show at Ram's Head on stage on April 2nd. It's a 7:30 p.m. show, and Chris Knight will be up here from Slaughters, Kentucky, again, for one show only. And for all things Chris, you want to go to chrisknight.net, and that's CHRISKNIGHT.net. And for tickets, you want to go to ramsheadonstage.com. There are still some left, so go get them now, because in a small room like that, there's no bad seat in the house, which is awesome. I think they told me that it was the 60 feet. I think it's the furthest seat away from the stage. I'm looking forward to the show. Again, it's on a Wednesday evening, so it's a perfect midweek, get you over the hump into the weekend. And I would say safe travels from Slaughter, Kentucky.
Well, I appreciate it. Looking forward to coming out there.
All righty, sir. We will see you in a little bit.
All right. We'll see you. Thank you very much.
Take care.
I'm running like a scared white-tailed buck. It was an all-night card game with Earl, Ray, and Bobby, some old boy they worked with from Adair. That boy didn't like me. Then he said I was cheating. Gunshots rang out on the midnight air. I don't want to see the daylight.
This has been a bonus podcast from Ion Annapolis. Please visit us at ionannapolis.net. Follow us on Facebook at All Annapolis and on Twitter at Ion Annapolis. And if you haven't subscribed to the Daily News Brief podcast, go for it. And all of your local news will be delivered to your phone, tablet, or smart device by 6 a.m. every Monday through Friday.